Now, this is a good one. If God rewarded the righteous immediately, we would soon be engaged in business, not godliness. We would, we would be pursuing not piety, but profit. Clement of Alexandria. That's a loaded one, but that's a very, very poignant statement. Um, I mean, why work for salvation when it's handed to you immediately? Why work for striving for something when it's given to you? Why even try to be humble, pious, or in reverence to God when you have the instantaneous profit and reward? Those are things that are obviously important to the grace from which we receive from God, the grace we give each other, and the grace that we that we strive for as Christians. I think it's very tough for us to be completely righteous because we're not. Only God is. But I also think if we were engaged in business, and by that it could be distractions, it could be things you want to do in life, things you have to put off, things that you can immediately reward yourself for, and things that you can reward yourself in the future. Um, but as Dr. Peterson puts it, we embrace the struggle because the center of our faith is the Logos of Christ. And his business was godliness. His business is godliness. And a lot of Western traditions of the faith forget that he is left out of that equation. And it just becomes, as Dr. Peterson puts it again, a repeating set of, a repetitive set of rules rather than an embraced struggle of which I myself fall short on. I know others do too, and it's not to say that as a bad thing, but that's engaging ourselves in current business, in the current ways of the world, in its secularization and its immediacy, and not having godliness involved with any of that. Now, you could take all that instantaneous gratification out of the equation, and if you do believe in God, you will be left with that belief in God. But if you don't, it will just be empty profit. And I mean, it keeps winding up in empty nihilism, which may be a theme. And I know it's a theme that was later taken on by the church. I couldn't tell you if I could remember off the top of my head which church father it was exactly. Seraphim Rose or St. Paisos, or St. Seraphim Rose or St. Paisos. Either one, maybe. I'm not sure which one, but I know one of them wrote homilies on the nihilism of the Western world and the European traditions and what it fell into. Um, and this ultimately could be, this could be a metaphor for a lot of things. As far as the empty business and profit where it gets you, and ultimately just materialistic things, and leaving the spiritual world behind, and not being rewarded immediately for your righteousness, but working and striving for an everlasting righteousness and everlasting love on from God's uncreated light. Um, so out of that, you get your love from God, although we have to be rewarded righteously when the time comes, or when our time comes, as people do say, um, and not being rewarded immediately for his godliness, and we wouldn't be pursuing it in piety or humility, but we would just be materialistically pursuing it, which a lot of the Western forms of Christianity have definitely fallen into that category, which is unfortunate. But in a lot of ways, people always strive for that spiritual connection, that deeper mysticism, that deeper sense of self and of yourself working through God, and then of God working through you and you working through God. So that dynamic is just not a transaction based on a materialistic ethos or mythos or a substance kind of thing, or a lack of substance exchange. It's deeper, and that's where faith comes into play. And like so, like it is, and like it will be. The chase always might be more exciting than the kill. So there you go.